Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. We'll wait maybe a few more seconds to have more people join us. In the meantime, I'm going to give you a few information. So I'm Mark Privot, and on behalf of the Gala Programs Committee, welcome to our session together. It's content bias and ethical concerns of AI in marketing. I'm going to start by reminding you that if you encounter technical difficulties, please use the chat box to ask for help, and the Gala staff will be able to help you to troubleshoot. At the end of the discussion, we'll have some time to answer your more pressing questions. So don't forget to use the button in your control panel marked Q&A, and also to vote for your favorite. With me today, we are joined by Sabina Jasinska, who will lead this presentation. Sabina is the head of sales and marketing at Transfer Room, a unique technology empowering football clubs to be successful in the transfer market. Prior to joining this exciting industry, she used to work for over 13 years in Localization, managing global marketing and operations teams for top LSPs, Donnelly Language Solution, and SDL, now part of our WS. So Sabina, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Mark, for the introductions. Yes, so why are we talking today about marketing, artificial intelligence, and ethics? So just bear with me, I'm opening my slides now. Yes, so we all know that artificial intelligence is changing our world, but actually marketing has become the most fertile ground for AI. In fact, marketers are using the power of AI to change how we think and to influence what we do. My objective today is to show you some tactics and talk about privacy, but also engage you in a conversation about its implications and potentially also solutions. Marketing has been usually vilified as deceptive, manipulative, causing people to buy things they don't really need, spending money and doing things they don't really want to do, and eventually leading them into an excessive debt. But marketing now has a powerful agent, AI and big data, and its influence is only getting bigger. And that's possible thanks to 4 areas of innovation. So it's personalized information, ability to learn, so machine learning, persuasion, as well as voice-based human-like machines. Altogether, those innovations are the basis of psychotechnology, which is a term coined by William Ammerman, the book, The Invisible Brand that you see on the left. It's something that I really recommend you to read, where you are going to learn about how those invisible brands impact every facet of our society, from healthcare, finance, politics, to even our love life. We still see a very narrow use of AI. As we say, it's easier to send a robot to Mars than to have a robot clean your kitchen table. However, we can observe already massive changes and a massive shift in communication technology. So in the past, everybody used to receive the same information at the same time, for example, from TV or printed media. Right now, the information is available instantly on the internet, but it's also personalized and adapted to you in real time. So everything from ads to news to offers to even to prices is tailored to you and adapted individually for each of us. So some of the examples that you see here on this page are, for example, recommendation engines that are nothing else that actually personalize ads that are targeting you. And what's interesting is that we actually love it and we demand it. So we really like that Amazon recommends some products for us that some other people liked, or maybe we find a new song on Spotify. A fun fact, Netflix is actually saving, thanks to their recommenders engines, they're saving $1 billion every year that otherwise they will have to spend on acquiring new customers because of the higher retention, thanks to the recommendation. Another classic example is programmatic advertising. So those are all the ads that you see everywhere you go online that are personalized to you in real time. So the question that I have for you is do we live in a buyer's market? Because we might think that we do. And the buyers have more power than we've been winning. We have more power than before. We can find anything on the web instantly. we can see product ratings, we can see comparison, reviews, we can skip commercials, we can block calls or different ads, we can do online shopping, we see discounts, we get instant delivery. So we seem to have more power than before as consumers. But is that really the case? Because what's interesting about it is that advertising, which used to be a creative industry, is now a data-driven business reliant on algorithms. It involves hundreds of variations and combinations of the text and image that it's tested in real time, learning what works for you, developing an approach for an individual consumer. So it's really the time of mass manufacturing, mass distribution, and mass personalization. So that's why at the end, we see different things. So when we have two people sitting next to each other and, for example, browsing through ESPN, through some sports news, they're going to see different sports that they follow and different teams that they follow. They're never going to see the same thing. Another area of that, pricing, as I think we're all suspecting, pricing is also adapted to us, and it's actually adjusted to how much we are willing to pay. As an example, Wall Street Journal always used to have a very strict paywall, which basically blocked you, if you were not a subscriber, blocked you from reading the articles. But right now they're trying to open up and say, have more subscribers, so you can actually test it for yourself. They use algorithms checking all other data points. For example, if you also subscribe to the New York Times, you will be blocked. But if you are not, then you might maybe read a few articles. A classic story that you might also remember is about Target. It's actually, that story is already 10 years old. So you might have heard about a father who got furious when his teenage daughter got a mailer with some baby ads, only to discover that actually his teenage daughter was pregnant. So already 10 years ago, Target worked with statisticians to analyze changes in purchasing habits to detect which consumers were pregnant. For example, women who are pregnant, they have a more sensitive sense of smell, so they start buying different cosmetics or maybe cleaning products without even knowing why. And of course, the reason why Target would do that is that because the stakes are enormous. It's confirmed that new parents' habits are more flexible than any other time in our adults' lives. So if as a company you can identify a pregnant shopper earlier, you can really earn millions. So Target started to send those mailers, but very quickly, in that story with the furious father, very quickly let them understand that shoppers find it creepy to get a baby mailer before they even had the chance to tell about the good news to their parents or maybe their friends and the partner. So that's why they started to mix the baby ads with maybe some wine glasses and gardening tools. And that's how the invisible brand was born. Because for brands to really survive and to manipulate us even more, they have to be truly invisible. And of course, all that is possible thanks to the cookies, which is nothing like leaving a tray of breadcrumbs everywhere we browse on the internet. And a scary fact, there's a data provider called Axiom, which has developed a massive database of consumer behaviors for about 96% of American households. 96% of American households. It contains the names of family members, current past addresses, how often they pay, or if they pay their credit card bills, whether they have a dog or a cat, what breed is that, what kind of medications they use. So basically, all the sensitive and personal information related to the household. And the list of data points is at least 1,500 long and growing. For years, Facebook has been collecting all the information about us. And as we know, we have no ability to erase it. Even if you hide or delete your profile, Facebook retains the data. Google also continues to track your movements, even if you tell them to stop. So they supply that foot traffic data, for example, to stores. And this is a business that it's worth $100 billion. So this is the $100 billion revenue for Google. And on top of it, of course, they also sell the ads to the same stores. Less obvious example, weather company. So it's a weather app that we have on our phones, which also collects data from every other thing we do on our phone, including also the type of the phone we use. So, for example, if you start checking the weather in the Hamptons, on St. Bart's, and you have an old phone, that the system will prompt some ads for the new iPhone, and you didn't even know that came from the weather company. So the less obvious examples how data is collected is, for example, in the US, there is a company that helps high school students decide which colleges are right for them based on their interests, preferences, location, finances, or their grades. So the prospective students are asked to answer a lot of questions, for example, also regarding their parents' financial situation. And what's annoying is that, of course, all that information is being shopped immediately to other businesses. So if you knew that, would you allow your child to fill out this questionnaire, knowing that personal information will be shopped immediately? Or you would rather allow to use it because thanks to that, they will be able to get maybe to the right college that will be the right fit for them. Same thing with our CVs. If you upload it or if we send it, we can also be sure that information, that personal information in our CVs is also used and sold. And we add there everything, including our home address, which can be quickly cross-checked if how much we paid for the house, if we're the owner, if we're rented, what was our last salary, and what our interests are. Questionnaires. We are asked daily to say if the ad that we see, for example, in our email or social media, if it's helpful. And very happily, we always say, no, it's not helpful. But what's actually interesting is that system uses us as a free resource, where an unpaid worker providing feedback to the system. So at the same time, we are a consumer, a worker, a free resource, and a product. Anytime we share sensitive or personal information about our health, finances, love life, interest, that information is quickly shopped to thousands of other businesses, if we like it or not. So the question that I would like to ask is, who owns the data about us? And also, in a wider sense, is privacy our human right? Because some argue that as individuals, we should own the rights to all the information about ourselves. And anyone trading that information should either have our permission or potentially pay us for the use of that. But the question is, what data about ourselves do we actually own? Where does one person's data end and another person's begin? For example, if a person enters a store and starts buying products or just looking at products, does that information belong to the shopper or to the owner of the store? Because at the end, it's about the store. And if you stand on the corner of 5th Avenue and 40th Street, is it a public information or a personal information? Can a security camera be used legally to watch people come in and out of an apartment building? So when it comes to the data collected by Facebook, Amazon, and Google, of course, there are voices that say that they represent monopolies and they need to be broken up. However, on the other hand, there are advocates allowing Google, Facebook, and Amazon to continue their dominance because they fear that we cannot trust centralized governmental powers, because those governmental powers, they can be only kept in check by corporations powerful enough to have influence. And that's why, let's talk about China. The Chinese government, it's a well-known example, has plans to roll out a nationwide system through which all of its 1.4 billion citizens will be constantly monitored. So the data will be collected through facial recognition, but also monitoring, geo-tracking, and that will be paired with medical, financial, web browsing records to assign each person what will be called social credit score. So all the good deeds give you points. You lose them for any bad deeds. There's also some punishment attached to it. So, for example, if you have an argument with your neighbor, you leave your bike where you shouldn't, you drink too much, or you play too many video games, then you lose some points. But good deeds, for example, giving blood, give you some. And at the end, the system can actually control every facet of your life, because if they have a power to assign you a score that regulates your access to housing, mortgage, healthcare, food, education, transport, or even social media, they also have the power to take it all away. But if you think that China is far away and it doesn't concern us, well, Apple and Facebook are also now employing trust score calculated based on user data. So it's not as far as we think, because all the through the personalized information, big data, the invisible brand is accelerating the ability to influence the way how we think. So let's explore a few cases, how that could be used and what possible dangers could be. So let's imagine a product which would be, for example, a pair of shoes equipped with medical sensors. So the AI technology, which would be like a Fitbit, incorporated in those shoes, could track our movements, blood pressure, posture, maybe even alert us of early signs of diabetes, of Parkinson's disease. So it's all great. The shoes might also detect if we put on weight and immediately prompt ads related to a diet regime. Then another AI algorithm could, for example, propose or recommend for us a treatment program for a condition that we have. But what if that algorithm has a bias in it? And for example, the bias is programmed to saving money. Then you would not get a treatment that would be really right for you, but only the treatment that you afford. Wall Street and finances. So the work that used to be performed by human traders on Wall Street is now automated by algorithms, and more of the world's financial decisions are made by computers than by humans. But if we consider that markets are driven by news or triggered by news, and also we know that those news are personalized to an individual, then the risk is that they could be manipulated at a massive scale, giving riches to those who control the algorithms at the expense of those who are not in the scheme. And it's actually not that far off, because those rogue algorithms have been blamed for example, dramatic swings in the market. And a great example of that is a 15% drop in the value of the sterling pound the night after the Brexit vote, because that actually triggered the sell-off mechanisms, and it took a year for the pound to go up. Then, of course, persuasion propaganda, and we all heard about the elections in the US and Cambridge Analytica, but there's also an example from Poland, which is maybe a little bit more rudimentary. We had presidential elections last year. The current government is supported, it's conservative, supported mostly by older people. And on the date of the elections, when on television, in the news, you could read that that the lines to the polls sometimes take 7 hours. Everyone who was 5 years old would receive an SMS from the government saying that if they are 75 years old, they didn't have to wait in line. And of course, we could see the number of people, the older people going and voting in the afternoon. If that's not influencing the vote, what else is? But if you, never mind the political propaganda, let's talk about love. And this is actually an interesting story. In 20 years, there's an expectation that 7 out of every 10 relationships will begin online. We can only imagine how AI will also help us find the perfect wedding venue, the perfect dress, but maybe also the perfect partner. And that's also happening. That's already happening now, because Tinder and other dating apps are actually showing us potential partners that are in our attractiveness league. And of course, Tinder knows how old we are, even if we uploaded a picture from 10 years ago. They know, of course, if we lied about our age or fitness levels, and they're only going to show us people who are in our attractiveness score, and therefore blocking us from seeing others who are more attractive than us. And that also leads to creating a caste system. And if you hear someone saying that they only see horrible people on Tinder, well, what that makes you think what the system thinks about them. Education. So that's another example where a caste system could also be created because of algorithms and because of AI. So it's been for centuries, for millennia. There's a long story of future kings and princes studying under watchful eyes of tutors, helping them become the future rulers of the land. But what if today we had our own tutor and an AI technology that will help us progress, that will refine a curriculum for us, and maybe help us achieve greater things throughout our life? That could also lead to no good if not, or even create a caste system for those who can afford it. And finally, job market. You also were probably suspecting that the LinkedIn ads you see online are tailored to you. And if you are a minority, a woman, you might actually not see some ads on LinkedIn. That's why in London, there is a group of women working in asset management industry, making sure that the ads helping basic companies make ads less masculine. So also great women will be able to find jobs. So that's personal persuasion is also done. It got another important agent that it's even helping those invisible brains manipulate us even more, and those are human-like voice machines that can learn. And they evolve so quickly that we're really barely playing a catch-up, and we barely had the moment to consider the ramifications. Because the power of human voice AI is to engage with customers, has the power to engage with customers at a deep emotional level. We all heard funny stories about Alexa or Siri doing silly things, but actually machines learn. And what we can see, and the various studies prove that children bond with machines more than with their peers. 90% of teenagers prefer to confine the machine than with their parents when they talk about their problems. And even Alexa has a negative impact on children's behavior because children don't have to be nice to them, and they actually apparently become more rude and less polite when dealing with different machines. So what are the solutions then? What we can do at the company or even country level? So of course, the issue must be solved at the governmental level thanks to regulations. The government has a responsibility to protect society from potential threats and risks. We already have regulations related to GDPR and e-privacy, but the area that it still needs to be regulated is related to the human voice user interface and all the persuasion and manipulation and privacy area that it's still gray. What can be done in the company level? So one of the areas is, of course, PR. So we all like to shop and work for companies who are ethical. So ethical companies could actually, it is a very strong PR argument. But then also what's recommended is for the companies to work with diverse teams, preventing bias when working on algorithms. There was a great example, a viral example of a soap dispenser at the airport that only worked if your hand was white, but didn't if your hand was not white. Obviously, there was a bias in the system, and obviously the team of engineers was white, and they didn't even know, they didn't even check it with anyone. So a way to prevent this type of issues is to work with diverse engineering teams. But then, just to close this talk, even with all those regulations and all that knowledge that we have, do we really have a choice? Because we might think we do. Every time we go to a supermarket, we see new products, new flavors. We have so much choice. But did you know that all that food that we consume every day is actually created by 10 food corporations, food manufacturers? And a great example of that is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has 500 brands, 3.5 types of different beverages. So if we wanted to taste a different Coca-Cola beverage per day, it would take us 9 years to do so. So do we really have a choice? And with that in mind, I hope that I gave you some food for thought and created more awareness about privacy concerns and risks. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabina. That's a fascinating topic for sure. Before we go to the question, I would love for Josh to show us his screen so we can see what our visual artist has done during the session. I love this. And watching it like really small in the corner of the screen during all the discussion, I'm always looking forward to seeing the final result. So yeah, so before we conclude, we have a few questions. You are just talking about bias. So what can LSPs do to ensure that they are not complicit in promoting bias or personalization that may be harmful? And is the solution to be picky about clients?
I think that's a great question, especially from a LSP perspective. I think as an LSP, we already are diverse because at least there are two people representing two languages, two cultures involved. And I think what I would recommend in that case is to actually maybe give a client more information about what this text really means in each of those languages, in each of those cultures. Very often we just do whatever the client asks us to do without giving recommendations. I think this is the time to really do so. And in the past I used to manage, for example, test translations when we had to translate something from the source to the target in the best possible way. And often we could see different traps or different expressions that could be understood differently by the non-native speaker. So what was really important here was the discussion between the two languages to understand really what it means and what possible translations are. So I guess I hope that I responded to your question, but I guess what is really needed is diverse teams and more discussions and more awareness. Because if you are not aware of differences, you would never be able to remove that bias.
Yeah, you need to identify it before you can actually work on it, I guess. Another question. So what do you believe is the best possible solution to appease those who wish to keep their information private? Can an agreement be made on what information should be kept? And can the companies maintain some form of client confidentiality?
Yes, so I think the best is to follow, in terms of privacy, the best is to follow, especially in Europe, GDPR, which basically asks you to give permission to use your data that it's sensitive. So the companies cannot use the data related to your health, maybe prior, jail time, or sexual preferences, or any religion. Anything that is sensitive needs your permission to be used. However, the problem is that we often give permission because we're lazy without even reading, cookies, etc. I think I would recommend that if you are serious about it, start reading what you agreed to.
Okay. And to follow up on that, and that's maybe because I'm a Gen X, so that's a question I always have. Are younger consumers actually more open to sharing data, or that's just the way it is for them?
Actually, yes. Research shows that younger people are more open to sharing the data. It's the older generation, and I know it even speaking with my parents, who are more paranoid about that, because at the end, what younger people want is the ease of use, and thanks to the fact if they share the information about the interests, their preferences, they will get a better experience at the end, and the messages, the ads will be tailored to them. So that's why they're fully on it. This is what actually research shows.
All right, great. Thank you. Well, I guess thank you, Sabina. It was a great discussion, and that concludes this session. We hope to see a lot of you at other presentations and in the lounge for some networking. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.